right, we're going to continue with our notes here. This is still part of the Indus River Valley section. So still part of the Indus River Valley section, so don't start a new one yet. This is still part of the same one. We're going to make a bullet, and we're going to write down Vedic age, 1,500 before Common Era to 500 before Common Era. So bullet, Vedic age, 1,500 before Common Era to 500 before Common Era. So we talked about early on in this River Valley life, we talked about how they had a whole month. They're pretty good at city planning, so planning out how to build their cities. We talked about how they built some pretty big structures. We talked about the Great Bath, for example. So we did talk about that. So we talked about a couple of things that they were able to plan out and a couple of things they were able to build. We looked at some of their wells, city designs, and so forth. What ends up happening, though, eventually is in this River Valley right here, they're kind of living, doing their own things. And eventually there's a group called the Aryans. And they go from the Hindu Kush and they move down into the Indus River Valley and they conquer the area of the Indus River Valley and conquer kind of the northern part of India. And so that's the Aryans. Let's go ahead and make a 1. We're going to write down the word Aryan, and then we'll write down the word conquerors. That's here. Oops. So 1, Aryan conquerors. So let's kind of know the Aryans end up conquering northern India area. And when the Aryans end up conquering northern India, how do they do so? Well, they're mainly based a lot on cattle ranchers. That's kind of the main thing there. They're cattle ranchers. They do have a whole bunch of horse-drawn chariots as well. So they use chariot tactics. You'll see chariot tactics are pretty common in the before Iron Age civilizations. Once people kind of get going Iron Age, they kind of just drop the entire chariot thing and just kind of stick more to horses. You don't really see chariots after that point in time. But very common for the Bronze Age for people to be using horse-drawn chariots in combat. And with a horse-drawn chariot, you can have someone jump on a chariot. You can move that chariot to the front lines. You have a person that's driving and a person that's riding. The riding person can jump off, jump in combat, jump back on the chariot when things aren't looking good, pull back, and so forth. You can also have archers on the chariot too. So the chariot just kind of allows you to kind of move troops to the front lines, move them back, allowed you to use kind of a mobile archer platform as well. So that's kind of what it was used for. Eventually, though, once you kind of get better in technology and people learning how to ride horses better, the horse is able to just kind of overtake a chariot and kind of kill everybody on it, when you have a rider on it. So, yeah. But as I said, most of their combat was based on horse-drawn chariots, but they are cattle ranchers. That's kind of the main thing about the Aryans. So they're cattle ranchers. Go ahead and make a 2 and write down cattle ranchers. So 2 cattle ranchers. Their entire economy is based on raising of cattle, cows. As their entire economy was based on it. So depending on how many cows you had, depending on how rich you were. So if someone has 10 cows and somebody else has 1 cow, then the person with 10 cows is richer than the person with 1 cow. If someone had 100 horses but no cows and somebody else had 1 cow, the person with 1 cow is richer than the person with 100 horses. As I said, their entire economy system was based on how many cows you had. So, as I said, they were cattle ranchers. All right. Next bullet, we're going to write down the word language. So, next bullet, we're going to write down language. I'll try to get this position a bit better for you. So next thing we're writing down is that we're going to write down language there. So bullet language. The language that the Aryans brought with them was Sanskrit. Okay, now we talk about how there was a language in the Indus River Valley. We can't translate that language, but we can translate Sanskrit. And you can see the language of Sanskrit right here. You can see how they have They have detached vowels and vowels. They have their numbers here. Numbers look kind of similar to what we got. 2 looks pretty good. 3 looks pretty good to what we use. Yeah, 0, So they do have some numbers that look similar to ours. You can see their letters here that they have. One of their letters, right there, OM. We saw that symbol before for Hinduism. They have half letters. So it does get a little bit confusing. Usually when you're kind of talking to people or you're kind of looking up information about Sanskrit, what you kind of normally find is that there's a bit of debate about how many letters they actually have, like how many the vowels actually count and how many the consonants actually count. It's anywhere from people saying there's 44 letters in their alphabet to like 52 letters in their alphabet. So it's a bit confusing about what people count and don't count, even nowadays after so much time. Go ahead and make a 1 and write down Sanskrit. So 1, Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is the writing that the Aryans bring with them, and that's going to kind of take over in the area. So 1, Sanskrit. After you have 1, Sanskrit, we're going to write down how many letters they have. We're going to stick with 52 letters just because that seems kind of be the easiest. So we're going to go with the 52 letters. And as I said, I've seen it be a couple of different things, a couple of different numbers, but we'll go with the 52 letters. So that's vowels and consonants. So 52 letters. So we use 26 in our alphabet. They use 52. Well, and more because I got the half stuff and the detached stuff, and it's confusing. But that's it. What's up, 52? All right. When the Aryans invade, they also bring along the religion of Hinduism with them. So they do also bring along Hinduism with them. So how does Hinduism get in the area? Well, it's from the Aryans. They're the ones that kind of bring along with them. And now we're into kind of the caste system. Now, we did talk about the caste system before, but we are going to talk about it again. So if you would, let's make our pyramid again. We made this pyramid way back a month ago, but we're going to make the pyramid again for our caste system. So first thing to do, let's write down bullet social hierarchy. So bullet social hierarchy. So we got to talk about their social hierarchy. And I'll go through with you what each one of these groups are again, because you may have forgotten. So we'll kind of go for this again, since this is pretty important. And this concept right here is pretty important for India as we go forward as well in this unit. So we got bullet social hierarchy. Let's talk about our various groups. So as I said, make a pyramid on your paper, if you would, please. And we're going to label the following groups. On the very top of your pyramid, you can write down Brahmins. On the very top, you can write down Brahmins. The Brahmins, we talked about them before. Those are the priests. So the priests are on the very top. So the priests are considered to be the closest to rejoining their soul with the main god, Brahman. And so the Brahmins, priests, are closest joining the souls with Brahman, the kind of major god in Hinduism that we talked about. Okay, next level down, Kshatriyas. Those are your warriors. So Kshatriyas, those are your warriors or nobles. Remember, once again, nobles are people that own land. People live in their land. Peasants live in their land. They pay taxes to the noble. That's how that noble makes money. Next level down, Vashas. That's your merchants. So those are your merchants. So those people that kind of trade and so forth from town to town. Also, your artisans are called Vashas as well. Artisans are people that make stuff. So someone that make horseshoes, or someone that makes swords, someone who makes pies. All right, that counts as well. So merchants and artisans are in that group. At the very bottom, you got your Shudas. That's your farmers. So Shudas, that's your farmers. And then remember, there was one group so far down, they weren't even considered to be a part of the pyramid because they had been so bad for all their lives that they had been, their soul is eternally untouchable, which are the people that have to do the worst jobs in society. All right, so untouchables at the very bottom. Remember, they're not even part of the pyramid, so kind of make a little space in between the pyramid and them, and then put them at the very bottom, and that's the untouchables. And as before, the untouchables, they do the worst jobs in society. All right. So if we look at like a person and we kind of talk about those four groups, not the untouchables, because the untouchables aren't even part of a person. But say we looked at the person and we had to figure out, which one of those four castes, which one is which. Remember, the social hierarchy, that's also called the caste. So whichever group you're in, that's your caste. So we got to figure out which caste goes where. So like on a person, if the mouse of the person was talking, which caste would that be? Well, that's the Brahmins, right? That's the priests, right? Because the priests talk, right? So Brahmins are the mouth of a person. What would be the arms of a person? Well, that's your castratas. That's your warriors, right? Because you fight with your arms, sword, hold the hands, right? So castratas, warriors. So what then are the legs of the person? What's the person on a person? That's your legs, move you from place to place. Well, who moves a nation from place to place, really? That's your vashyas, that's your merchants and your artisans, okay? So they're the ones that move the nation. So castratas defend the nation, those are your arms. Brahmins are the ones that talk, right? And then who are the feet? Those are the shudas, that's your farmers, right? Because without the farmers, you have nothing to stand on, and then, well, you collapse. All right, so you need the farmers to support the entire body. So that's why they're the feet for. All right, so those are your caste systems. If you put them onto a person, which one goes where? All right, let's go ahead and stop there for today.